Of course, you can keep your cameras turned off, although we would love to see faces and make this as interactive as possible, like with all of our previous sessions, right? So if it's possible, please do turn on your camera. And of course, we would love for you to have your mics muted. If you're not speaking or asking any questions, we would have times for questions towards the end of the session, right? And in the meantime, if anything, mind-blowing questions or inquiries come to your head, you can always drop them in the chat section. And of course, we always advise, do follow Platform Explorers on our social media platforms. So we have like the codes for our LinkedIn page and also the Twitter page. So please follow, subscribe, engage with our content, and we would really love to see how we're making an impact in your careers as you go along. So now just a bit around the agenda. Of course, today we're just speaking around yet again shining a spotlight on what really matters as individuals embark on your career journeys. So as we go about that, I will just do like a quick introduction on who Platform Explorers is, like what exactly are we trying to achieve with Platform Explorers. Then we would go to the real reason why we're all here today, not to see my face, not to hear my voice, but then to hear from our panelists, right? So we'll get to introduce our panelists, and then you get to learn more about them. And, yet again, we want this to be interactive. So as we proceed, if you have any questions, you can always drop them in the chat. We'll get to the area where we all get to, contribute and really speak our voices. So just a little bit around Platform Explorers. We're fairly new. Our community is a fairly new one. It was founded in January 2025. And then, Rachel and I had like a joint vision, right? We both resonated on the fact that there is a difference actually between learning a technology skill and actually getting experience that's relevant to the industry, right? And also even trying to prepare for either apply for a job or prepare for like an interview process and all of that. There's that bit of a disconnect, especially for early career professionals, people who are looking to transition into tech and all of that. And because of this, we decided to collaborate and actually create this community. So basically, our idea, our vision is to, help individuals move from, basics to actually break through, right? To build confidence, to build experience and their careers with our community, and then collaborating with like industry experts like Dina and Nico that we have on the call today, recruiters, hosting training sessions, just to get people to have the actual hands-on experience. As we speak, we're currently rounding off our first cohort. The cohort has run for about 12 weeks now, and we would be having our closing ceremony, in quotes, thank God, this Saturday, right? It's been a really interesting cohort so far, and I think the participants would confirm that it has been a bit challenging as well, because they have faced some challenges, but then I feel like they've also learned from all of that, and they've gotten to build their portfolio from that. So that's just, the quick intro to Platform Explorers. On that note, I would introduce our panelists, but then I think it's best to actually have them introduce themselves. So Dina, would you like to go first, please? Tell us about you. We want to know, who is Dina? What do you currently do? Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just was sharing in the chat. I'm not sure if you're changing the slides. The slides from my side, I still see just slide 1.
Oh, really? Is that same for everyone else?
You are on mute, Nico.
Yeah, you're on mute, Nico.
Same for me as well. It was.
Oops. How about, wait, hold on.
There we go.
Yeah.
So now you, oh my gosh. Oh, sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay. All right then. So yeah, you can go ahead, Dina.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for having us. So my name is Dina Medhat. I'm enterprise sales leader at Microsoft. I'm originally Egyptian from Africa as well. So I moved and I started to live and work in Ireland since 8 years. And before that, I was I lived and worked in France, Canada, so Ireland is the third country. What else? I like what I like about Microsoft, and it depends for sure on the culture of each organization. That besides the business side as well, you have the room for innovation if you have the energy to start something. So back in the days as well, I started. I was the co-founder of African and Microsoft Ireland, which we did really amazing things in Ireland. And now, as I mentioned, for when it comes to my career, my current role is enterprise sales manager at Microsoft, covering different markets in EMEA, across EMEA. My background or my area of expertise, so it's a mixture. So I used to be a researcher before joining Microsoft in telecommunication, and then I did a big shift in career, and now I'm working in IT sales, more in the cloud space, data, and AI. So that's about me.
That's amazing. Lovely to meet you, Dina. And thanks once again for joining us today. And then over to you, Nico. We would love to get to know you. Yeah, who is Nico?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me as well, and pleasure to meet all of you. So my name is Nico Roussos, based over in the UK, and I'm the director of a recruitment business called Conspicuous. We were founded in 2000. I haven't been here quite that long. I've been here for 11 years next week even. So it'll be 11 years that I've been here. And we are very focused, not just in the UK market, we cover Europe. We also work across EMEA as well, really. From my perspective, my team, we do also then have another team that covers the North American side of things. And then there are the odd other positions and clients and companies that we do work with slightly further afield as well, but predominantly it's EMEA and North America. And the technology side of things that we cover is very much around the Dynamics, Microsoft Dynamics, Dynamics 365 Power Platform space. Also, that recently has extended slightly into the AI side of things, and also some finance positions as well. But predominantly at the heart of it, it's Dynamics Power Platform, and that is really about me and what we do. So yeah, we work with people. The best thing about that is helping people with their careers, really, because it's such a life-changing thing for people. It's such important decisions. So to be able to have an impact on that and help people with that is really rewarding, and I love what I do.
That's great. That's great. Lovely to meet you, Nico. So yeah, it's really interesting to learn about, what Conspicuous do and then what you do with them, being the director of recruitment at Conspicuous. So that brings me really to like my first question, right? When you look at, because I know that at the moment I actually following you on LinkedIn, I get to see your post about, job opportunities and all of that, right? So
Yeah.
really, when you get applications from individuals, what qualities do you really prioritize when you evaluate candidates for technology roles, really beyond what's presented on a CV?
Yeah, a very, very good question. And there's a number of things that people can do to make themselves stand out. The last, well, probably since there was COVID, the last 5 or so years, it's been challenging. There's been obviously very good moments within the job market, but then there's also been some very challenging moments as well. So, when you're applying for roles, it's important that you make yourself stand out. And there's various different ways to do that. Because ultimately, for some of these positions, there's potentially, you know, tens of other people also applying.
Of course.
And so, yes, naturally a CV tends to be the first thing that anyone is going to see. So firstly, you've got to make sure that the CV does stand out as well. Just on, I know you're asking other than the CV, but one bit of advice on a CV I always suggest is not to have just solid blocks of writing, continuous writing. Make sure it's broken up a bit, use bullet points, spacing, because otherwise a solid bit of text is so hard to read. And it's can be quite off-putting. So if you can break it down, use bullet points, use spacing, that immediately will make your CV more appealing and easier to read, so easier for someone to take on the information. But yeah, other things outside of the CV, LinkedIn profile is great. Yes, a certain degree of a LinkedIn profile is like a CV, but you also have so much more opportunity there. Like you were saying, you've seen some of my posts. I don't know, like videos, for example, I post occasionally, or other posts as well that maybe not videos, pictures or updates, and it just allows someone then to get a better understanding of you as a person, your personality. It's hard to do that with just writing on a CV. With a LinkedIn, if you utilize all the functions that you have, like the videos and things, then someone can get to know you on a personal level, which I think is so important. You know, personality and sort of cultural fit is as important as the skill set. You know,
Of
sometimes
course.
even more important. So yeah, I would definitely make sure you use LinkedIn. It's such a powerful tool, not just for that, for job searching, for everything as well, which I'm happy to discuss with anyone if they want updates or information on LinkedIn. But yeah, LinkedIn, and also it's important to make sure that your LinkedIn matches the CV, because we do see people that have different companies in different places, or the dates are different, or the missing companies, and it just sometimes can be a red flag. There might be a very good reason, but if you can make sure that your CV and your LinkedIn marry up, that's a very key bit of advice. Outside of that, then away from the LinkedIn side of things, I would always look to find out what someone does, outside of, maybe firstly, it might be your first job, so you might not have had a career history as such. So I would look to see what they are maybe doing themselves outside of, if they've got a job outside of their work, whether it's like self-studying, attending events, even like this, for example, this type of event, or conferences like Rachel's at the moment. I know they're not necessarily as accessible, some of these conferences, because they're all over the world, but there are a lot of local and online conferences as well, or activities, events, watching podcasts, all sorts of things like that. The more that you can integrate yourself in the community, the more you'll meet people, the more you'll be able to get recommendations. But it also just shows a real willingness and a drive and a motivation, to do other things outside of your sort of 9 to 5 job. And it also helps you to learn new skills as well, and
Of course.
understand new things. So that would be another point. And something that sometimes is overlooked as well is soft skills. So the communication side of things, being able to build a rapport, build relationships with people, because if you're going for a consultant role, for example, you've got to be engaging, you've got to be able to have good communication, good contacts with potential customers and clients. So anytime you get the opportunity to have conversations with people, it's all practice, and it's a good opportunity for you to learn as well, because soft skills are ultimately going to be as important as well as the technical skills. So they are sometimes overlooked by people as well. And then, yeah, I think, just building your network as well. If you've got a network, then you'll start to get introduced. So if I get recommended someone from a contact that I'm already, that I trust, then, they're already going to be starting on a good step. So the more that you can network and build a relationships, the more you'll be getting recommended, and recommendations are the best way to meet new people, because they're usually coming from someone that you trust. So they are all points outside of the CV that I would probably look at, to try and build a much wider picture and a wider understanding of someone, because a CV can only do so much.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not going to say the CV is outdated and isn't required anymore, because it is good, because it's just got the career history, which is important, but there's so much more to it these days as well, which is just as important, if not more.
Of course, of course. I think the truth is, as you were speaking, I was making mental notes, and I'm like, okay, when last did I update my CV? When last did I update my LinkedIn profile and all of that, right? And then it's really I feel like a lot of times we overlook some of these additional aspects. Getting to network with people, getting to like showcase the right skills and all of that, right? Even the soft skills as well, right? Which at the end of the day could just really help you land that dream job. And then, speaking around even cultural fits, Dina, what do you think around, so like, you're a manager at Microsoft, right? And you have been with Microsoft for a number of years now, worked with different industries, different experiences and all of that. So at the moment, how do you like assess, cultural fit and basically avoid, common interview pitfalls when selecting candidates?
Okay, that's an interesting question. Maybe before I answer this question, I just need to echo Nico about LinkedIn, and maybe to tell you, like, as a hiring manager, before the interview, the CV is the static version of you. LinkedIn is more dynamic version of you. So usually I don't check just the experience. I can see it on your CV, but I check the type of posts you put, like the time of recommendation, just to get a sense of the mindset of that person just before the interview. So LinkedIn is the key thing to do, and to make sure that you are active on LinkedIn.
Yeah. I second that. I go to LinkedIn, if I get a CV through, the first thing I'm doing is going to their LinkedIn. So yeah, massively, because it gives you a much bigger picture, as you say, with their posts and things like that, especially if they've done videos or recommendations, like you say.
Yes. Now, to answer your question, I think before I answer the how, like to assess the culture, it's important just to reflect on the culture and what does it mean. And before you assess, you need to define. So I think it's so important to define the culture of your team, the culture of your organization. So let's give the example of Microsoft, okay? I'm a manager at Microsoft. The mission of Microsoft is clear, is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. So that's the mission. And then the culture, it's about growth mindset. So at Microsoft, we have this 3 circle of impact, and each employee in the company, they have to go through this discussion with their manager to check the growth mindset piece. How we check it? Through the 3 circles of impact. So one circle, it's about what the result you achieve, your business core priority in any organization. But then there are 2 other so important circles, which is how you help others to achieve results, and how you get help from others as well to achieve results. And as a manager, if I have someone like really excelling in their numbers, as being in a sales org, but they don't leverage it to other circles, then that's a red flag. Okay. So first, to define your culture, what you need for your team and for your organization, and then how we assess it. So as I told you, I really like the question, because usually people sometimes ask me about what knowledge, what experience you are searching for. But just before even knowledge and experience, the culture fit is so important, because you can find people really strong. They have amazing experience. No way they will succeed with the mindset, and the culture is different. So usually the how, first I have to be really fair. And we as a manager, we always take courses about biases. So we are human beings and we have biases. So you have to be fair with all, candidates, and make sure that you have a structured set of questions, the same for everyone, before you take any decision. So that's number 1. Number 2, usually my way is asking questions about situation, because for me it's more about to see how the people, like how they reflect on things in the past, in the present, and in the future. So let me give you an example. I can ask, like, tell me a situation when you had really a challenging moment with your customer, and how you like, what was your reaction to it. And then you see the mindset. 2 person can give you the same answer, but in two different completely ways, and that's how you judge. So someone will tell you all the blockers, customer, the market, the challenge, the customer is challenging, always saying no. That's a way. It's a fact. It's a fact. They didn't lie, and it's good to be transparent. But someone else can give you the same answer, but then they reflect, then I had to find a solution. Then I have to find, they are trying to find workaround, finding alternative solution. That's the mindset that I need in my team. I usually, even if I reflect on the team and the qualities I'm searching for, I want someone that don't take no for an answer. Resilience. Okay. So that's the situation. One of the things that I ask about is the career progression. Sometimes you will find people, they are just focused on the job they are applying for. So whatever question I ask, they want really to give me the impression I'm a good fit for the role. So they keep going back to the current moment. Although my ambition is to see what their ambition, what their vision. And that tells me a lot about the person and the culture and the mindset. So that's, in a simple way. I hope I answered your question.
I think it's really, really perfect, really, because even as you speak, I think a lot of us sometimes would fall for that, especially for the not speaking as a visionary, speaking with your vision in mind. I think I've actually even made that sort of mistake in the past, starting my career. I'm like, when I get to an interview and they ask me, oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? I'm like, I just want to land this job. I don't know where I'll be in 5 years' time. But then, like, progressing in my career and now being with Microsoft, I know that, okay, yeah, I definitely need to be able to look forward, right? How can I actually, work on something and actually build on that, right? And be able to think quickly on the spot as well. And I think another key part I'll just need to add is also preparing for questions like, the ones you just mentioned, because a lot of times people go into interviews and then they're not really prepared for like the different scenarios that may be presented, right? So if you're a bit prepared, then you don't feel like off guard when you get such a question. So it's really interesting to hear that. And then even just to touch on the fact, the your mention around, okay, how did you solve this? Like, tell me about a time, right? You don't just want to hear, okay, yes, I worked with a team, we had this challenge. You also want to hear, how did you solve that challenge? I think it's really, really important and really interesting that, this is something that is really key to possibly landing a job, because it then gets people to showcase that they are problem solvers. So that's really great. Thank you so much, Dina. So now I think a question for the both of you, because at the moment, there's a buzz around like, we're in the tech industry. Things are always moving fast, right? Today, the buzz is all around AI. We work at Microsoft, Dina and I, and then we know that we're really pushing, Copilot, right? And there are so many other tools and solutions out there that are being utilized and being released literally every day. So I'll start with you, Dina. What would you say are some strategies that you could, recommend to participants, for staying current and competitive in the field?
Yeah, so you know what we are going through actually remind me as back in the days when the invention of computers and everyone was stressed like my God, and then people will lose their jobs and what will do. Imagine now how would like live without computers and internet. I don't know how. The same thing for AI, and to be honest, like the things now I do with AI, I was just reflecting how I used to do that without AI. It takes me ages. Like now it's so easy. So I think my own strategy. Uh, I'm curious, okay, and I like to learn, but sometimes there is a tricky point where you can be overwhelmed. So I'm trying to be curious, but not overwhelm yourself because like things are like it's too fast. Everything is moving too fast. So my methodology is just to focus on one thing, one simple thing, and start to put it more in practice. So let's give the example, as you mentioned, for Copilot. We have so different types of Copilot and Microsoft. It's all based on AI, but different ways. So, for example, I take the Copilot in Teams and I start to use it, to practice it. We have Copilot for sales that I use as a sales manager a lot because it gives me the whole summary of everything. I just use Copilot, like I put it more in practice step by step. So that's my way. So I read a lot, I learn a lot, but I don't overwhelm myself and I take it step by step. And like just from last week, I had so many reports ready to submit, so many. And then I was like, I did it like that. I was like, how I used to do that, it took me ages before. Because sometimes, as well as a manager, and sometimes in some emails are talking with stakeholders, so you need to be careful with the wording. And sometimes you cannot just find it. And all you need to tell Copilot, like, just tell me, like, just add a tone, more professional, more motivational, and you get it in seconds. So it's really good. I think we have to think about it in a positive way, but we don't have to overwhelm ourselves step by step.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for that. I forgot I was on mute. Yeah, thank you so much, Dina. So I think picking up on that, so follow up on technology trends, but do not be overwhelmed by everything happening in the world. Thank you so much for that. How about you, Nico? What strategies would you advise participants to adopt to stay competitive in this ever-changing world?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few things really, and I think as Dina mentioned, it's so easy to get overwhelmed. So you do need to take you absolutely 100% need to embrace AI and new technology because it's here and it's here to stay. So you can't sort of shy away from it because it's here. But equally, as Dina said, you don't want to get overwhelmed. So something we do here, which as a business is once a week, even for an hour. Everyone, and you could do this on your own, but we allocate 1 hour every week where we all come together and talk about AI specifically, any new tools that anyone's found, and that is purely focused. So we're not overwhelming each other. It's people that have had experience, so there is knowledge sharing. So maybe you could either do that, allocate time each week where you just focus on that, in this instance, AI, the various tools, because there's thousands of them available. Um, Equally, maybe you want to have some peers or members of the community that you come together on a regular basis and share ideas. So that is something that I would highly recommend. We found it really, really useful because it's all about embracing it. You've got to embrace. Um,
Yeah.
which I mean, I'm guilty of it. All the AI, it's so overwhelming because there's 10, 20 things or different versions that all do the same thing. So I don't know which one I should use, which one's better than the next. So I think it is really important to bounce ideas off other people. That's what we've found is really, really important. Um, and also while you're doing that as well, do some of your own small projects, use some of these tools, not necessarily in a work environment. I mean, equally, if you've got projects that will allow you to use these tools, great. But, in your own time as well, have a bit of a play around and see what they can do. It might be useful in your personal life. It might be useful in your work life. You never know. But I think it's just about very much not getting overwhelmed it would be the sort of key thing from me. And also another slight thing is material that's available, various podcasts, that you can watch. There's newsletters from various different businesses, also following business updates, like Microsoft, for example. They're always releasing news information, so just keeping up to date on that side of things is really useful, I find.
That's
Maybe
great.
Nico, to add, you don't have to think twice about the tool to use, right? Just use Microsoft technology. Don't think about the competitors. You
There we
always
go.
win.
This is very true. I actually really like a quote that I read the other day about Copilot, and people worried, remember it's Copilot, not autopilot. So
Like,
Yeah,
I thought that
exactly.
was a really good quote. It's there to be your Copilot, it's not to be your autopilot and take your job, that I heard it at a conference and it stuck with me. So I thought that was a really good quote.
Yeah. I like that one as well. And then I was like, oh, that's actually brilliant.
Yeah, yeah.
So I actually have another question, but before I take that, I would just ask, our audience, do we have anyone have any questions? You could just use the raise hand feature and, you'd get to ask your questions. You can come off mute and ask. Do we have any questions, please? Okay, while people are trying to get off, be feeling shy and all of that, I think as you were speaking around, we're talking about AI and all of that, right? So it just occurred to me, like, how do you feel around people utilizing AI tools to like revamp their CVs or their, LinkedIn profiles and all of that? How do you feel about that? And is it because I've found that, you know, yes, AI is here to be our co-pilot, right? Not necessarily autopilot, but sometimes people might use it to like the extreme, and you're able to tell when you see a message and you're like, I'm not really getting the human feel out of this. Is this something you see at the moment? And then what do you think around it?
Yeah, shall I go? Um, Yeah, I think I definitely think it's got its values for sure. Absolutely. And as you say, it's here and it's here to stay. However, in this case, when it's about applying for jobs and personality and culture is so important, using Copilot, using ChatGPT, whatever it may be, to write a CV or to write your content, it can aid it. But if you just purely use that to produce your CV or your LinkedIn or whatever it is, you're going to completely lose your personality. And personality is what makes you ultimately. And yeah, very much so. When ChatGPT and Copilot and all of these platforms were released, it was very obvious very early on when people were using them. I mean, it was, when we were getting the CVs and you could see the box that ChatGPT does when they copy and pasted it, for example. Also, some of the language, it just doesn't feel human sometimes. I know you can train them, and you can sort of teach it your personality over time. But I think, yes, use it as an aid, but definitely don't rely on it completely, because your personality will be lost, and that's what makes you you, and that's why people hire you, as well as obviously your skills.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Nico. How about you, Dina? What do you think?
Yeah, same as Nico. If I reflect even on my daily work, as I mentioned, like AI and Copilot is helping me big time. But after I write, I have to like do a kind of a reflection, because sometimes you feel, no, that's not me. But the good thing that at least how fast it is, and then I add my own flavor. That's what I do myself. But no, I don't take it copy paste, because yeah, sometimes you feel no, that's not me at all. So I just need like how fast it is, but then I add my flavor. So yeah, I think the balance is important. Not completely AI, not completely just no, I will not be open to the new technology and do my own things. The balance, I think, is so important.
Yeah, definitely. The balance is everything at the end of the day. So thank you so much for answering that. Paul, I see you had your hand up earlier. Do you want to ask your question now? Hi, Paul. Can you hear us?
Oh, all right. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I was about typing my question in the chat, but I'll just ask it now. So, thank you very much for this insightful session. I hear you guys talking a lot about landing a job. Do you have any advice, suggestion for maybe new hires, people who are just getting into the scene? What you think will help them thrive, especially in this period of AI and a lot? Yeah, that's my question.
Dina, do you want to take that on Nico?
Go ahead, Nico.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, as someone that's looking to enter into the market, it can be challenging to get given the opportunity, but the best bit of advice that I can give you is to be proactive. Very much, start to attend events. Like I said, it doesn't have to be in person, because I appreciate they're not necessarily accessible to everyone, but there's so many online events. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry to cut you short.
That's okay.
Yeah, for someone who has already entered, like someone who is already in it. So what does it take to succeed, especially in this period?
Yeah, so I guess it's similar to a certain degree, is to still be proactive, to do self-learning. Again, the conferences and the events, the amount of events and conferences that's available in the Microsoft community is incredible. I always joke to people that you can almost be attending a conference every single day if you really wanted to, if you had the ability to be everywhere in the world, that is. But there is so much out there. There's not just events, there's a lot of learning material online. So I think if you can be proactive, use some of your spare time to learn and to, onboard new skills. And I think just being proactive as well will make you stand out from the crowd, rather than just maybe sending your CV, maybe follow that up with a message to put the hiring manager. It just shows a bit more drive, I would say. I really value it when someone sends me a CV, but then I'll also get a little note, maybe LinkedIn or email, just saying, hi, I've just applied for this role. Love to hear your thoughts, if you have any feedback. I just think it shows good willingness. But yeah, any training that you can do, I think is important. But also something that we didn't touch on earlier is mentorship. There's a lot of programs out there where you can get mentors, you know, and they're so valuable. It can be someone, it doesn't even need to be someone that's does exactly the same role as you do, but someone else in the community that can, you know, guide you, give you advice, you know, can potentially work with you on some projects as well. And then who knows, that's starting to build a network as well. So I think mentorship is a big one for people that are looking to progress their career.
How about you, Dina? Do you think do you have any to share?
Yeah, and maybe I would like to ask Paul. I'm just trying to go deeper in his question. So, Paul, is it what you are trying to achieve? Is it like change in role, change in the organization? I think I'm trying to understand the, you know, the reason of your question, so I can maybe give a like the answer that will fit your needs.
Okay, all right. So the reason for my question is not necessarily changing role, but getting into a role in this period where, let's say, there's no much demand for junior developers and or engineers assist senior developers do what junior developers would do. So if you are opportuned to get a junior developer role, and with this current age, what does it take? How do you need to navigate that whole scene as someone who is just entering the job space in this particular period? But as Nico said, being proactive is one of it. So I think that's good. But that's my perspective, and that's where I'm coming from.
Okay, now it's clear now. Exactly what Nico mentioned, I echo what Nico mentioned, and maybe to add as well, you know what, like sometimes you can have, I'm talking about a hiring manager, okay? And sometimes you have really strong candidates. They have all the skills and everything. And they have another one junior. From my perspective, sometimes I leverage the junior one. So it really depends on the role, yes, but it depends on the profile, back to what we mentioned. I see that they are proactive, I see they have the energy, although the other one, they have so much experience. And sometimes it's another condition as well. Sometimes people get offended, you know, how I was not just like I did all my exercise, I studied and everything, and I was not chosen. But sometimes as a hiring manager, you don't just think about the candidate, you think about your whole team. So at that moment in time, I have so many senior people in the team and I need some diversity. I need someone junior with fresh ideas. So also think about that there is always opportunity. Yes, there are things you cannot control, but so you reflect that's not only about you and your experience. So that's one point. But also as a someone junior, you bring a lot to the table. So think about that sometimes in my situation, my team, I like diversity. Diversity, it's a safe, like it's a good environment to be. If you have everyone with the same capability, that's not a place to grow. That's my own way of hiring. So I always like the mixture. That makes things even better. I say from knowledge and experience point of view. So I would say that's my way. So for sure, proactivity, for sure, networking, mentoring, but also put in mind what you bring at the table. You never know. You might be surprised. You might have some perception which is not right about being junior in the market.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nico and Dina. I think that's really interesting to hear those perspectives. And just to add as well, right? Because I feel like, just like you said, Dina, earlier, that the technology world is always evolving. There's always something new, right? So we always have to think of how can we be one step ahead? How can we like make the next move that could possibly put us in front of the right people? So you know, having the right personality, you know, networking and all of that, they all go a long way. And, you know, that part where you mentioned that there will always be opportunities, but we just need to make sure that we are in the right place. We're in, you know, putting ourselves in the right circles to be able to recognize those opportunities when they come up. So thank you both for that. Just before we take Benga's question, I see that we had a question from John, and he's asking, he's going straight to the point. He's like, how can someone, you know, get a remote job as an Azure cloud engineer for a beginner? What do you think? Nico, do you have any ideas around that?
Yeah, for sure. I'll be honest, especially as a beginner, it's tough. It is tough because, when you're at that level, people like to have you in an office. Because I know you can sit here like this on Teams. It's not the same as being in the office with your team, because you can knowledge share, you can pick up skills. You learn a lot more by being in person with people. So it can be difficult. Equally, when you say remote, I don't know whether you're talking about within the same country or if it's, looking at further afield, because sometimes it can have an impact, time zones, and various other sort of back office elements, payroll, that type of thing, the boring stuff. But yeah, it's not the easiest. More senior, there tends to be more flexibility. So sometimes, if you can, to start your career, get yourself up and running, be amongst other professionals with similar skill sets, or skill sets where you want to get to, then I do think you will learn a lot more. So it is difficult. I'm not to say it's not possible, but it is tricky, to be very honest.
Yeah, thanks, Nico. How about you, Dina? What do you think?
Well, from my perspective, that things have changed big time after COVID. So, so there is two things. So I will reflect on beginner and remote. Okay. So the beginner, as Nico mentioned, the first step is always the hardest step. Like I remember everyone in the interview will tell you what's your experience, and then like if I am like when I need just the first experience, so I can share you have to give me the chance to just to have the first experience. It's always the hardest. So yeah, you need to be proactive and keep going. When it comes to being remote, my perspective, as I mentioned, that things have changed after COVID. And maybe to give you an example, I am based in Dublin, okay, and my team as well are based in Dublin, but we are serving customers in Germany, Middle East, Africa, so across the world. Although we are remote as a team, we are not engineers, we are sales. But the thing is, even if the customer would like to deploy one of Microsoft's solutions, so usually Microsoft deploys through partners. Now I see the difference in the market. So before I need the partner on the ground in person to come and deploy. But now they are like, if the partner has capability and they are even in India, now I have customer in Saudi and leveraging partner in India to do the deployment. So I think things now when it comes to flexibility is much better than before, to be honest. So I think there is always an opportunity. Just you need to try and see if you have the right capabilities and you are working on yourself. You might be surprised because as a hiring manager, they might find someone in person, but this is not what they want in their team. And then you come with everything they are searching for and just remote. So you might find some manager they have this flexibility. That's okay. Why not? If you can do your work remotely, so why not? So from my perspective, it's hard, yes, but there are now better opportunities than before.
Yeah. So I think just to add to that as well, it's really picking from what you both have shared, because starting out as like a cloud engineer and all of that, there's always that you want to be there in person to learn from like your team and all of that, right? And then as you progress, then you start to look out for like bigger opportunities. So picking from what Nico said, where you get to try to find a circle of people who are already where you want to be, right? People who are already like, they're already pro engineers or pro developers, as the case may be, right? Because when you are in that circle, you get to pick a lot from them, right? And then you also get to be involved when new opportunities arise, because a lot of times at the end of the day, we are all human, people talk. So if there is opportunity that is hiring for like, a whole team and all of that, you would find out that that opportunity finds its way to roll back to you as well. And once you're ready, once you are, you've prepared for such an opportunity, because like they say, opportunity meets preparation. So like you have prepared for that opportunity, and when it comes up, you're able to then, step up to it and, deliver as the case may be. And then I would just advise on, I know there are remote job sites. We'll most likely share that maybe after the session and all of that, so you can explore that, just to like get the feel of, okay, how does it feel to even apply for this type of roles, right? whether you get it or not, it's fine, but just make sure that you continue to like build your network, continue to build your skills, look for opportunities also locally, right? Because that is definitely something that you can always reference within your CV and push that forward. Okay, sorry to drag that for so long. Benga, do you want to share your question now?
Yeah, hey, hi. Thank you so much. Hi, Nico. My question is, Nico, you mentioned doing projects, even if it's not work-related project, right? So on my LinkedIn, for some time I've been like, I do a little of Microsoft, right? So I'm new in Microsoft. So what I learn, I try to share them on LinkedIn and Twitter as well, right? So I want to know, right, if this kind of project can be added to my CV and like work experience and stuff like that.
So just so I understand then, so you're asking if the projects, I'm assuming they're projects you've...
Yes, so
personal
this is what
projects.
I do, yeah. I go to Copilot, I create the problem. So I ask Copilot to create a problem for me, right? Then I go to Microsoft, and then I go to like Microsoft Admin Center and try to solve this problem, right? I create this problem for myself, and then I solve this problem. And then I try to share them on LinkedIn, like, this is the problem I created, and this is how I solved the problem. And this is how Microsoft guided me in solving this problem, right? So can I now share this one in my on my CV and say, yeah, this is what I did, and this is the experience I have?
100%, yeah. I would encourage it, in fact. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. So you can have a projects section in your CV with, you know, bullet points or an overview of the project. Equally, if you've got a link, like either an online portfolio or, as you say, LinkedIn, Twitter, you know, put the link there as well, because then that would take someone straight to the work that you've done, and they then can see it rather than just reading on the CV, I've done this or that. You know, then they can actually see it with their own eyes, and they can actually see the solution or the resolution that you've created. But yeah, 100%, I would encourage putting that onto your profile.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for answering that, Nico. I think just to add to that as well, Benga, I don't think are you part of our current cohort, the Platform Explorers cohort?
You guys did not take me.
I'm sorry, I guess you're on the wait list. But like basically what we try to do in the cohort at the moment is we have people working on use cases, on challenges, and then we actually have them document the process of solving those challenges, and then they get to populate it in GitHub. So they have their GitHub profile, it's made public, and then, you know, people can always go to reference that. So even within your CV, you can always put like, you know, the GitHub link. So recruiters or, you know, managers and all of that, they can always go in there to reference, oh, this is what this person has worked on. It's more like your, of course, it's like your repository, your project repository, and it's actually really a great idea. So yeah, I hope you find that helpful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So sorry, we'll quickly move on to Michael. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Juan. Thank you, Nico, Dina, for this opportunity. So during the time you are talking about strategies for staying current and competitive, I see that use of AI was emphasized so much, and now we can't deny the fact that AI has come to stay, and this recent time we see people lose their jobs. Yes, and the truth is more people are going to lose their jobs, and I'm sure this now, before, there are jobs you normally get people to do, but now you can use AI to do these things. You don't need anyone to do that for you. So this is my question. How is us? Okay, I don't know. This question is directed to you, Nico, as director of recruitment. So how is AI changing the kinds of now, for someone like me that in tech, how is AI changing the kinds of tech job companies are hiring for and the skills that companies actually want. I don't know if you understand my question.
Yeah, so I think if I understand, you're asking the impact AI is having on the jobs market, as you say, people potentially losing their jobs because their skill set is no longer required because AI can take over. So there will of course be an element of that, but I think what it creates opportunity as well. AI is very new. It's been around for a while, but it's become mainstream very recently. But ultimately, there will be jobs created because of AI as well. So, all of these companies are going to want to have in-house teams on the AI side. So I think it's about adapting, embracing the technology that is available, and that it goes back to, as you say, keeping up to date with the latest technology. So if you keep adapting your skill set, which with tech changes so quickly, as we all know, and embrace the technology, then I think people's jobs will change. Of course they will. It's there to, and like I said at the start, it's co-pilot, it's not autopilot. So it's there to support people, and it's there to help people with the workload, to take some of the automation and the repetitive tasks and that sort of thing. But there still needs to be people to operate. It would just look slightly different.
Yeah, definitely. And basically it's really around, just like you said, Nico, staying on top of the trend, trying to understand, I think you even mentioned it earlier, trying to follow like technology releases and upgrade your skills as a professional so that no matter what, you always remain relevant as technology evolves. So we'll take Vara's question, and then the last question would be, I think we have one last question in the chat from Luciano. So we'll just take your question, Vara. Do you want to come off mute?
Yeah, I do. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, a bit faint, but yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Hey, Nico, my question for you. So actually, I followed on the LinkedIn your posts on a lot of posts about that. It is a very functional consultant roles regarding a lot of posts I see you. So I am from India. So I would like to come to another country or like in anything, like Europe or US or Germany or any country. So we are facing like directly to hire, to get the countries and to get a job. It's basically challenging for us. So mainly for the sponsorship, all these things, companies could not provide that one to us actually. So there's a big thing we are facing actually from India directly to get hired. So for this question, I would like to ask you what you will give us some any mentorship like or like what are the steps I need to proceed for that one. So actually my job is related and my job is related a functional consultant. It is a functional consultant. So I have like a 3 years of experience right now. So I would like to move to the other country as Europe or Germany, but I'm facing a lot of rejections due to I don't know well for the resume level or like to the sponsorship thing. So I would like to where I'm checking or like how the recruiters were seeing like outside of your country people like if you want people like us from the outside of your country.
Okay. So I think it was a bit hard to hear, but if I've understood correctly, you're looking to ideally find opportunities in other locations. I think you said the US, Europe, that type of thing, but you're finding that you're getting or struggling to get much traction, probably mainly around the sponsorship side. Is that correct? Have I understood that right?
You understand that?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the sponsorship and visa situation, it's tricky, and it comes down to each individual company. Each obviously country has their own visa sponsorship rules and things. You've got to qualify for certain experience. Some places you've got to have certain level of education, certain level of work experience before you can even qualify to secure a visa and the work permit. Equally, you know, in the UK, for example, a company has to have certification to be able to offer sponsorship. So it's not, I'd love it to be as easy as, you know, you're the right person for the job, here's the sponsorship and visa. It's really, unfortunately, not as easy as that and as straightforward. And the other issue is it obviously comes at a significant cost. Again, it varies from country to country, sorry, but there is significant cost involved. Some companies see a risk with people relocating because it is a big move. You're moving country, potentially family as well that are going to be moving with you, you know, to a new job as well. So naturally, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, if a company can hire someone that's already there in the location, it's cheaper, it's quicker, it's a bit less risk. But that's not to say that there aren't opportunities out there. I'm more than happy if you want to, you know, connect with me afterwards to have a chat so I can understand your specific experience and your situation, because it does vary on each individual. You know, people have different requirements, different experience. So unless I really know that side of things, it's hard for me to say specifics with your case, but I'm more than happy to take a look and have a discussion with you afterwards as well.
Yeah, thank you, Nico. So I'll just take the question we have in the chat from Luciano, and she says, oh, okay, Nico, I think because everyone is trying to take advantage of the fact that we have a recruiter on the call and ask their really important questions. So Luciano says, I've noticed you frequently share opportunities for Dynamics 365 functional consultant roles, which is great. However, many of these positions appear to be on-site or limited to Europe, which poses a challenge for those of us seeking remote opportunities from outside the region. Would you happen to have or be able to share remote Dynamics 365 roles that are open to candidates outside Europe? Additionally, I've observed that most of the roles are geared towards D365 architects or functional consultants. I'm curious to know what the outlook is for professionals like myself who specialize in Dynamics 365 support and hold relevant certifications. Are there opportunities in this area as well? Thank you for your time and valuable updates.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, again, obviously happy to have a specific conversation afterwards, but again, it comes down to each individual case, you know, each individual company, because different companies have different requirements. They're looking for slightly different things. Sometimes there's a big thing, obviously, in the EU. There's GDPR regulations, which can create data issues when data is accessible from outside of the EU. So that a lot of companies are reluctant to hire outside of the EU because they don't want to leave themselves exposed to GDPR. There's also payroll issues if they haven't got an entity set up in whichever location you're based. So there's various different reasons, and again, it does come down to sort of individual basis, which I'm obviously happy to discuss. As you say, a lot of the roles are functional consultants, architects. We do also have support roles as well, but I think a lot of the roles that we tend to see are more senior. But as I said, that's not to say we don't have support. So again, I think it's probably one on an individual basis based on your specific skill sets. I would say you're doing all the right things. You know, you've got experience, you've got the certifications. So again, what would be probably quite useful for yourself is to try and start networking with people, build up a bit of a relationship with people, maybe in the specific location. So, you know, there's groups on LinkedIn, there's, you know, all sorts of other ways, online events where you can meet people. And if you start to build that relationship with people that are in Europe, if it's specifically Europe you're looking for, then that potentially could lead to opportunities for you as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was our last question. Sadly, Dina had to drop in the middle of that as she has another call. But thank you so much, Nico and Dina, for the great insights that you have both shared on this call. I think it's been a really, really interesting session, and I'm sure like everyone on the call can also attest to that. So, of course, if you have any follow-up questions, Nico has already said you can connect with him on LinkedIn.
I'll put it on LinkedIn, my link now, just so everyone can
Perfect.
send me a
Thank you.
connection.
Yeah, and you can also connect with Dina. She's a really lovely lady. So thank you all so much for joining us. Please connect with Platform Explorers on LinkedIn as well, where we have like similar sessions like this. And, you know, like I mentioned earlier, we will be rounding off our first cohort this Saturday. So be on the lookout for our next cohort, hopefully in the next couple of months. So thank you all so much. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you for having me as well, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.